Hello, everybody, and welcome back to yet another cast. Guys, this time I'm bringing you a 1v1 between two legend gamers, two god gamers, one might even say. Two of the best of the very best. Mr. EXE here in the bottom left, starting as core, and race in the blue. Now, guys, EXE wants revenge after that terrible performance the other day. EXE, he's hungry. He needs his satisfaction. He needs to bend race over a table and take what he needs from him. He's just simply not satisfied with losing. You know, EXE, an insatiable monster, this man. And he's ready for vengeance. That's all I have to say. This is Total Annihilation. We do expect this game to bring out the absolute worst in its players. After all, it is a game designed on nothing but the desire to destroy your opponent in the most egregious and cruel way possible. So I think that's probably what we're going to see here this game. EXE ready for revenge, but Race definitely will have something to say about that. He is not just going to give up that easily, as he will definitely have the drive to succeed and win as well, and humiliate EXE once again. So guys, I'm really looking forward to this game. This is a super interesting map. As you can see, there are all kinds of terrain obstacles and reclaimable nodes and rocks and kind of craters or plateaus or whatever you want to call these things. Just sort of natural indentures or indentations into the land that make traversal difficult. It will make this navigating this map somewhat of a challenge. So I expect that both players will be going K-bots this entire game. I would be very shocked if anyone built a single vehicle. The vehicles are just going to get caught on everything. They won't be allowed to use their superior speed and mobility. K-bots are really kind of king on a map like this that has so much terrain frustration. But speaking of frustration, this AK will win this battle with just a sliver of health, as both players slowly kind of feel each other out and look for an opening early on and see if they can give themselves an early advantage that might snowball into the later game. Again, EXE's got to try something fantastic. Now, guys, again, if you've watched my cast for any amount of time, you already know this, but the reason that I love casting these two players is because they have such different play styles. Obviously, it can overlap occasionally, but EXE is basically he's this very sneaky jack of all trades kind of player, but his playstyle does change a lot from game to game. Sometimes he can be very aggressive early on and try what would be considered an all-in and maybe another RTS where he just tries to troll his opponent, cheese his opponent, and win early. But other times he can go into air, and we've already seen his legendary bombing play. Or he can settle into a late game macro style or anything in between. But overall, you just never know exactly what you're going to get from this guy. Usually, though, if you play against him, what you're going to get is beaten. That never feels very good. But Race's style is pretty stable. He is a god tier macro gamer, and he likes to build a lot of factories and simply crush you under the weight of his production and economy, and he does it really well. It's just hard to stop even if you know it's coming, because he can just throw so much at you, and he's got really great micro, so he's good at finding many avenues of approach and looking for available opportunities to strike. But I think both of these players this game are going to be looking for these opportunities. I like what EXE has done here. This light laser tower covers this entire area almost. So, yeah, the players will have to be putting their defenses in strategic locations to maximize their ability to defend, because the reality is there's so much surface area, and so they need to try to find the most effective ways of defending that. I like this LLT right here. It will cover a pretty wide range, and then I'm guessing he'll want to build one up here at some point, but Race might not give him a chance. We do have an early kind of peewee attack. Looks to be 5. And EXE coming to respond, but will it be in time? It depends on whether Race is paying attention. He will take out the mechs, but he could fall short of getting the con. Oh my god, I was wrong. Race is going into vehicles. I really didn't expect to see it this game. You'll probably witness these flashes getting caught on almost everything. But right now, their pathing is okay. This is an interesting choice. EXE going air second, which I really like. But guys, it's worth noting, if you haven't watched me cast 1v1s, going air second is a bold move in a 1v1. It's a very risky strategy, because air has a ton of advantages that it can give you, but it will put you behind in terms of your production. And it means you have to defend your opponent with much less. So Race on 2 ground labs, that sort of means that Race will be flooding the map with units. And EXE, he's going to try to have to hold on with just this 1 K-Bot lab while he pumps out Avengers. But if EXE can hold on with half the amount of land production, it could mean that he will gain this insurmountable advantage from the sky, because he will be able to use air for a lot of different things. For one example is he could bomb his opponent's extractors. That would be a really cool option. He can use his Avengers for harassment as well. If you get enough Avengers, you can sort of stall land attacks, but Avengers and Hawks have been nerfed in Escalation, so they don't do as much damage against ground. They are primarily designed for air-to-air combat. So EXE is going to need a lot of them to really make much of a difference in the battle. But right now he's doing an okay job. He's kind of keeping Race on his toes with these light raids. But what I fear is that Race will eventually send an overwhelming force, because he's basically going to be doubling EXE's production here. And I assume Race, if his previous games are anything to go by, will soon be tripling EXE's production as he builds another factory to pump out loads and loads of units. But EXE, he's got a lot of presence here in the middle. He is starting to pump out those Avengers. He wants to get a critical mass, like I said. Once he has a certain number of them, he will be able to rain hell from the sky. But will he get to that point before Race just kind of crushes him? Right now he's got looks about 10 AKs here. And that will take out this LLT, but Race with a single warrior, and that one warrior could probably take all of these AKs by itself. I guess we're going to find out, aren't we? Okay, not quite. It gets about half of them, but you can see how strong those warriors are. Just another few seconds, and I think those AKs would have they would have gone the way of the dodo bird. EXE, though, he is defending his territory, but as I said, this is going to become a situation that will be increasingly difficult for EXE with just one factory. And now just one factory pumping out K-bots. So EXE, I have to say, he's done something pretty greedy here. Not only does he go air second, but then he goes straight into advanced K-bots. So Race is going to have an opportunity here to punish him. Possibly. He's probably going to use his commander here. He sends out a D-gun. He takes out those 2 flashes. So nice job there. But EXE is doing a good job of keeping Race busy on his side. And that's always a good idea. When you do something greedy, you want to keep your opponent busy, kind of keep them on their toes, and prevent them from being able to overwhelm you with what in Race's case is going to be a vastly superior number of units. But he's sending more flashes now and pumping out even more stuff. He is going aircraft third because he now knows that EXE is on air, so he will be responding in kind. So really the question for EXE now is whether he can survive the next few minutes to allow his T2 to come online. It's not enough just to build the factory. You also have to start building the constructors, upgrading your mexes, upgrading your energy eco, and then obviously building units as well, which are expensive at this stage of the game. So if EXE can survive long enough to get some cons out, get some pyros, he should be fine. Right now the economies are pretty similar, but Race has found a relatively undefended part of his base. EXE really left the door wide open here in the north of his base, the north kind of northeast side. He has a few Avengers, but not enough to make much of a difference, I think, in these battles. And Race now streaming into his base with tons of raiding potential. EXE just now pumping out his first pyro. So again, the question this game is whether EXE will crumble before he can really get his advantage online. This T2 rush that he did. I don't know. He's losing a ton of eco. You can see the whole north part of his base has been ravaged. He's going further north, and there are some defenses up here, but yeah, the bigger issue necessarily... Yeah, even Race in the chat kind of wondering what the hell EXE is doing. He doesn't realize that EXE is rushed T2. That's why he doesn't have any units. So, yeah, EXE with kind of a risky gamble here. And that is why Race is pilfering and plundering his base. Almost uncontested. But these pyros will finally make it into the fray. And I think Race will have a better idea now of what EXE was doing. That just one K-bot lab, which he now reclaimed. So this is the only land factory or lab that EXE has, while Race is currently on 2 and working on his own advance. So I think EXE will survive here. It's just a question of whether he took too much damage, you know, whether Race was able to get enough done in that time that EXE was very vulnerable. Right now, Race about 15 metal per head, like 15 metal per second ahead, using his Avengers to try and stop the Stumpy push. But Stumpies are very good against static defenses. They have a lot of health, and their bullets have an arc, which allows them to bypass terrain obstacles. a fight for the sky as both players now in fighter production. And EXE does have slightly more. So, again, this game, as you can see, Race has a much better control of the map. Look at his base. Just from the mega map, you can kind of see he's got a much larger area of eco and defenses. But none of it is really extremely well fortified. There's no heavy laser towers. So EXE with a sustained push through one of these sides could get some damage done, but EXE mostly on the defensive now. I really like these two LLTs here. It's going to get a lot done, I think. Killing tons and tons of peewees. This one's already got 6. EXE bringing his fighters into the fray. He's going to start getting collapsed on all sides. He's got to make a move of his own. Guys, in TA Escalation, you can't just be on the defense. It's just not that kind of strategy game. You have to have an offensive plan if you want to get anywhere. So EXE's got to get some damage done of his own. He's got to get some raiding done. He can't let Race simply take over the map like a virus. Because Race will spread like a cancer if you let him. And EXE certainly not content to allow that to happen. If he can stop it, if he can put an end to Race's ruthless expansionism, then perhaps he can win this game. But it is always difficult against Race. He's such a stable player, and it's difficult to find weaknesses in his style. So Race here finally on T2, but not that far behind EXE, just a little bit. EXE with a well-placed heavy laser tower there that will make aggression from the north difficult. And building a second heavy laser tower as well, but this one's unlikely to get finished. These flashes are going to find these two cons, I think. And this is kind of a disaster for EXE because, oh my god, Race isn't paying attention. That is so fortunate for EXE. Those two cons were certainly dead, but Race clearly focused on something else right now. He does not want to let those two cons die. It would take forever for him to replace those. So guys, if these two cons had died, he would have had to, well, he can't even replace them, but say he wanted to take these two cons that he has, he'd have to send them all the way back up here, and that would take forever, and then he'd be losing the production power that he's using to build his economy. So it just would have been a total disaster for him to lose those, as those are what are going to allow him to keep fortifying the northern part of his base. So I really like, well, I don't know, I'm just going to say EXE got a little lucky, I think. Race was not paying attention to that because those were 2 free kills, I think. And that little thing would have been a huge disaster. Losing 2 cons may not feel like much as a viewer, but I'm telling you, they are difficult, literally impossible to replace in this case because he reclaimed his K-Bot lab, so he can't build those again. And he's not even using his aircraft plant right now. He's putting all his production into eco and pumping out cans. But the issue for EXE now is energy. He doesn't really have the energy economy that he needs for this strategy. Cans are extremely expensive. And EXE's energy is just kind of lacking. He is building some geos, and that will eventually help. But right now, the game's still super even. I do think Race is ahead, though. Certainly on the map, he's ahead. But he's not using his advanced K-Bot lab, though. I don't know what's going on with that. Race, as you can see, he's got metal to spare. He's almost maxed out, so He doesn't just want to let his advanced K-Bot lab idle. He wants to be pumping things out and using his metal. He will finally notice that was not being used. So Race is ahead economically for the moment. But EXE's sending some scouts. He's trying to figure out what his opponent is up to, if there's anything interesting coming his way. But yeah, Race, he is floating metal very badly. He needs to either build more constructors, or perhaps another advanced K-Bot lab, or something to use his metal properly. He's finally using it, but yeah, the Zeuses are slow. It will take them a while to get to the other side of the map. EXE with some cans. And cans will just eat through pretty much any T1 units without much of a challenge. And poor Race, he's going to need more than this to break through, I think. I really like what EXE's doing here. His economy is far inferior, but he's just using it better right now. He's simply making better decisions in terms of his unit compositions and his defenses, and slowly crawling back into the game, even though he's still about 15 metal behind, and he's doesn't have as good of map control. He is being a nuisance with this pyro. That will get a lot of damage done, I think, taking out an LLT. Now going for the rest of the eco down here, but Race is building Zeuses, but they're just going to be slow. It's going to take them a long time to reach the other side of the map. And in the meantime, still floating a lot of metal that he certainly could be using for production. Even going into an advanced aircraft plant could be good. Getting advanced air using brawlers or phoenixes or some kind of threat, even mass hawks, could be frustrating to deal with, because EXE does not have that much air defense anywhere. He's got a few defenders, but that's not enough to stop brawlers. So we'll have to see. Again, these Zeuses are slow. It will take them a millennia to reach the other side of the map, but they will finally get there. But right now, I do like what EXE is doing a little bit more. I like all these defenses in the north. It feels like the north for EXE is pretty safe with all these cans patrolling around. But the south is a little bit more vulnerable for him. There's no HLTs. There's very few cans down here. He's sending a couple there. But ultimately, Race might find some leverage down there on the game. These cans are very hard to kill, but the issue is the Sentinel is blocked by Dragon's Teeth, and these Dragon's Teeth have been so effective. He does eventually get it, but I think it took him so long just to kill that HLT that Race might be able to clean this up finally with his Freedom Fighters and his T1 units. And in the meantime, here in the south, EXE throws up an Immolator just in time, and with some reinforcing cans, might be able to stop this. Zeuses are the arm equivalent of the can. EXE being a little bad manners in chat, I think. Yeah, he's kind of roasting his opponent a little bit. Relying on some psychological warfare, if you will. EXE not just content to win, he must destroy his opponents emotionally, psychologically, physically, and otherwise. But Race is still very much in this game. And what now? It's the opposite problem. Race is using all of his resources, and EXE is capped out on metal. So EXE does not want to be in a situation like that. He is now going to pour his metal into this advanced aircraft plant. And we'll see if he can survive until then. Again, the fact that Race is using all of his eco is a good sign for him. He's almost on this advanced vehicle plant. And I have to assume he'll start pumping out Bulldogs or Panthers. But EXE has done a great job of defending here. I like these HLTs and immolators at these very tactical locations. Single Zeus making it through, but it will die. Can the last Zeus get this GAT? It looks like it's going to be close. He will get it, but he won't kill the Geo. So overall, I think this is going to be a win for EXE. He's got some nice air defense here. That will push those freedom fighters back. And ultimately, all this has done is give EXE a lot of reclaim, and he can rebuild the heavy laser towers. So nice job by our Russian warlord. Definitely doing a good job of keeping Race out of his territory, and that is absolutely necessary if you want to win a game against Race. Cannot let him flood you from every angle. So EXE going on to advanced aircraft, which means we will most likely get to see some patented and legendary EXE bomber play, T2 bomber play even. And I am, as a caster, very excited to witness that. Finally, Race on T2 vehicles, pumping out some cons, but yeah, I expect production to ramp up into military here in just a few moments. Right now, there is a bit of a lull in the game, as both players they have sent wave after wave at one another, but never really reaching the critical mass necessary in order to break through their opponent's base and deal kind of a devastating game-ending damage. Both players have done a decent job of defending themselves. And but EXE is on T2 air now. And that could be the game decider. Economically, they're very similar. So it's extremely close. We'll have to see what Race wants to produce out of his advanced vehicle plan, but there's really not that many options, so it's most likely just Bulldogs or Panthers. I suppose he could go into Penetrators if he's feeling very cheeky and brave and wants to have that option. But on a map like this, I think Penetrators, it's going to be a little more difficult to use them properly because there are so many terrain obstacles. But it is a possibility. However, Cans versus Zeuses in general, the Cans are going to win. The Cans are a little bit slower, but they, as with most things with core, they're made to last. They're harder to kill, and I think they do slightly more damage. The Zeus is faster, but the units are fairly comparable, but Cans will win this engagement. Race throwing in a few Mavericks as well, but Mavericks generally just melt to Cans. It's not much of a it's usually not much of a contest. Mavericks have one of the highest DPSs in the game, but they're very glass cannony. So if the Cans can just shoot them for a few moments, they will die. Oh, I like what Race is doing here. He's trying to throw up some Dragon's Teeth to give himself the advantage, and using his freedom fighters as well. He knows that EXE has the superior army, and he's using whatever tools available to him to give himself a slight edge in this battle. EXE being a little indecisive, but Race bringing in reinforcements here, and with these spiders, if those can get into the fray and paralyze the Cans, it could turn the battle in his favor, but he's losing most of his army here. bringing in his own fighters to try to control the pace here. The spiders are now stunning the cans, which will prevent them from firing, and I think with those spiders and these Avengers flying in, Race will be able to curtail this aggression and survive. But hold that thought, because EXE with a secondary attack all the way up the right side of the map, he's going to have to use his fighters to try and stop this. EXE has sent cans all the way around. I mean, it must have taken ages, but they have now made it into his eco, slowly moving and inching north towards the Moho extractor. And these freedom fighters will deal some damage, but just it's going to take forever to kill these cans. They're so damn tanky. And meanwhile, Race just hasn't been able to get much of a counterattack going. EXE with a second wave of pyros here, following the swath of destruction that the cans have made, and trying to break into the heart of Race's base and try to deal serious damage to his eco. That could be a disgusting display of strategic dominance here. Two HLTs pumping out that damage. But overall, the game is still close, but I think EXE is slightly ahead here. Those two cans will die, but all of the pyro is still alive. And how much can he get done with these? This is definitely a suicide mission. But how much can he get accomplished with this suicide mission? He'll take out the Moho extractor. He'll take out a Maverick. And he'll most likely get this Moho as well, maybe. Pyro still got a lot of health. Race doing what he can with his fighters and try to kill this before it can take out his eco, but no. EXE able to get the damage done, and now another Moho in trouble. Every Moho he takes out is pretty devastating for Race. These are not cheap, and they take a little while to make. So ultimately, EXE will be cleaned up, but he's done two things here. Number one, he's dealt some serious economic damage to Race. He's killed all the defenses here at the southern corner of his base. But most importantly, he has kept Race from really being able to go on the offensive at all. Usually in these games, Race is the one that is keeping EXE on his toes and stopping him from really moving out onto the map. But this game, EXE has really been in the pilot seat. And now pumping out Vamps. I think I would prefer to see some Bombers or Rapiers. But I will take Vamps over nothing. I like that Race is adding Partisans into his composition. He might expect that that EXE is up to something, that he might be on T2 air. So he is adding some air defense. He has decided to go for Bulldogs instead of Panthers or Penetrators. So that, we'll have to see how that turns out for him. But yeah, ultimately, Race, he'll probably have to spend a lot of his eco just rebuilding his economy. And also throwing up some slingshots as well. So I think Race is expecting EXE to go into T2 air. He may not know that EXE is on T2 air necessarily, but he probably suspects it. Even building a Guardian here. In the last game I casted between these two, the Guardian's definitely having a large impact on the game. So could Guardians have a big impact again? We'll have to find out. But Race does have a fusion up. I don't think EXE has a fusion. He's working on his first one. But the fusions will definitely be important at this stage of the game, as they give you a massive amount of energy, 1,000 energy. And not only can it power your economy, power your production, the fusions are pretty much necessary for transitioning into T3 as well. So this game is dead even right now. Both players economically are about exactly the same. They're almost on par. And it's kind of hard to say who's ahead, but I will say that EXE has been the aggressor this game for sure. He's gotten a lot more done with his raids. The fact that Race is still close economically is just a testament to the power of his macro. EXE attacking in the middle, but this is too well defended. With the Bulldogs and the fighters and the defenses, that is not going to work. And it will send EXE packing. He's definitely going to have to go home and lick his wounds and find a better strategy. Generally, on a map like this, do not want to send the units straight through the middle, because the middle is the most well-defended point of your opponent's base, if your opponent is good. As you can see, Race has sentinels at very smart locations here to make any kind of attack difficult through this whole area. But if you look through this whole entrance is pretty undefended. And Race finally going on the counterattack, bringing his Stumpies and Bulldogs. Try to get something done. There is a single immolator here, but EXE has now revealed his Vamps. An aerial battle taking place, but the Vamps should come out on top of this. It's actually really close because Race had so many fighters. But, yeah, this is a scary push by Race. He's been building this up for a while. He's been on the defensive for most of the game, but now EXE perhaps in trouble. This is a nicely placed immolator defending this Moho extractor, but will it be enough? Race right now being a little indecisive about what he wants to do with this. He's got the upgraded Zeuses here at the south corner of the map. The upgraded Zeuses are new in this patch. As you can see, they have a shield, and that will allow them to have a lot more health than a regular Zeus. But this one immolator, or excuse me, I guess there's multiple immolators, but these immolators are definitely giving Race a headache. He's just having a hard time deciding what he wants to do. And the immolators, this one with 10 kills, I know some of those are Bulldogs as well. So with immolators, you definitely want to be decisive in how you deal with them. You either want to avoid the immolator completely. They don't have a huge range. They're more of a... In the original game, they were a riot defense. So they don't have a huge amount of health. I mean, they do have a huge amount of health, but they don't have a huge amount of range. So with immolators, you basically have two choices. You either want to kill them quickly so they don't burn your whole army to death, or just ignore them, avoid them. This Guardian has been completed. EXE shelling it a little bit with his Mortys. Lots of Dominators here. And ultimately, the game is still very close. But I think EXE might have a slight advantage. I like all these Dominators, but Race has a nice army as well here in the southeast corner of the map. But this is a well-placed Guardian. It is creating a kill zone in this entire area. And the Mortys are attempting to siege these defenses, but it's difficult with that Guardian. The Dominators as well, fighting against the shielded Zeuses. It's a brawl at all different corners of the map. Race now with a second push of Bulldogs and Stumpies, but he needs to be decisive about this. He keeps sending these kind of at the edge of EXE's base, but never committing to an angle of attack. and just getting shelled and withered down by all the defenses that EXE has built. But I like what EXE's doing here. He's kiting these Zeuses from afar with the Dominators. The Zeuses aren't even able to get into range. Dominators absolutely flooding them with missiles, overwhelming them with rockets. And the Zeuses aren't even really able to respond. But now EXE has to watch this wall. It is blocking most of his shots, but Dominators in the correct situation, as you can see, are so terrifying. Finally, Race has committed to an avenue of attack, but will it be enough? He's killed some defenses here, but I don't think he's got quite enough. He might get the Geo, though. No, he won't quite get the Geo. Most of the army has already been cleaned up. EXE attempting his own counterattack with cans, but there's only 4. How much can he do with just 4 cans? But hold that thought, because he's got some cans at the southeast as well. This part of Race's base was never really rebuilt properly. And so for that, he will lose multiple Moho extractors. He'll probably lose an advanced construction vehicle. EXE has just inflicted such long-term damage to to Race here at the southeast, and he continues to exploit this opening that he's made with cans and pyros to make Race's life a living hell. But here in the north, the game's still very even. EXE has, I think, lost most of those Dominators now. The Fidos will be able to deal with them a little bit better. But this single Immolator will be annoying. Fidos, or excuse me, there's 2 Immolators, and Fidos are going to have a hard time killing either of them. So EXE has said in the past that he thinks Immolators are kind of OP. It's certainly, he's making them look overpowered in this game. But these 2 cans are just, they're causing such trauma to his economy. 6 kills on that one and 2 on that one, but most of those kills are just Moho extractors. Each one of these that dies is going to cause Race some cringe. And Race struggling to find a response to just these 2 cans, but I don't know. I think EXE has done a better job this game of making his choices in terms of his composition and his attack vectors. These 2 cans are such a nuisance. Targeting down another Moho extractor. And guys, it's hard to emphasize enough, like, EXE had to take these cans and move them all the way across the map. Like, all the way down here, all the way south, and then north. And that took forever. I mean, it probably took like 15 minutes for those cans to get there. But EXE knew that just a couple cans is enough to cause problems for Race, and they certainly have at that part of his base. But now EXE on Sumos, and there's been some talk in the Escalation Discord and in the Escalation community about whether Sumos are kind of overpowered in this patch. Certainly Sumos have been considered overpowered, not just in Escalation, they were also considered overpowered in Pro TA for a while as well. But EXE with a single Hurricane, does he have more? Oh, he does. So EXE finally ready to unleash his aerial might. It's taken him a while, but I think he is finally prepared to bomb Race back into the Stone Age. We'll have to see what he wants to do with these. Race is ready with some fighters, but EXE, he's got to find the right avenue of approach. There's a lot of air defense here. And a decent amount. So again, Race was preparing for this. I think he expected this. So EXE needs to find a hole in his base where he can fly those bombers through and get some damage done. Because there are certain parts of Race's base that are almost inaccessible to T2 bombers. And he, of course, has all these fighters, but if EXE can distract these fighters, there is a possibility. Oh, here we go. Here comes the bombing run. He'll take out that HLT instantly and probably go for this second one as well. He'll take out that Sentinel. Now going for the Moho Extractor, so it looks like EXE has found the approach he needed. Knowing that the southeastern corner of Race's base is vulnerable, Race just now getting his fighters into position to deal with this. So I don't know how successful that was, but he did get some economic damage done, and he did take out some HLTs. He probably wanted to get more than that. If he could have just gone a little further north, he could have gotten to fusions. He was really close. But now, the game is still pretty even. EXE definitely not doing enough to just win with that outright. But yeah, he's got a lot of cans up here. And Sumo's in the middle. And a toaster here in the bottom, so... Oh, okay. EXE also building an Intimidator. You don't see that very often in 1v1s. It's pretty rare for someone to go into long-range plasma cannons into 1v1. So I'm interested to see how that plays out, if EXE can even finish it and use it effectively. The bulwark slowly chunking down the can. But EXE is attacking on multiple angles here. As you can see from the mega map, he's moving in from many different sides. But Race is there with a counterattack of his own. The upgraded Zeuses and Fidos mainly. But will it be enough against these Sumos? We'll have to see. EXE's base is potentially vulnerable here. Here in the north, a fight happening as well. Lots of cans and Merles. And I think Race will be forced to retreat here. He might be able to take out the Sumo, but most of the Zeuses have now died. This Sumo will probably even survive, so... Things are starting to look a little dire for Race. These Sumos are walking death. They're so difficult to deal with without the right counters. And EXE potentially building a game-ending number of them. There's 3 here and some cans. But most of Race's army has died in the north. In the mid, EXE moving through as well. These Fidos just really aren't well positioned to deal with what EXE is making. And I want to keep an eye on that long-range plasma cannon. Doesn't look like he's investing too much into it, but he might want to invest more because currently EXE is floating a lot of metal. He is almost maxed out at the moment. But either way, it's still a close game. I like that Race is using all of his metal. And getting to the edge of EXE's base, but once again, hitting these walls of immolators. This is certainly a macro war, but I like EXE's composition better. Good use of Mortys and Dominators this game. Good use of cans and Sumos. And 2 cans now make it through the front line. But I think they will ultimately be killed by the defenses there. But once again, the game is close. Both players streaming units at one another, but EXC's economy, I think, is slowly becoming superior here. Pumping out all those sumos. I'd like to see him build the upgraded sumos. And now he has prepared another Phoenix attack. More bombers slowly making it to the front with their propeller planes, their propellers. World War II style carpet bombing that we know and love in this game. They are going to make a beeline straight for their targets, killing a Moho, going for the energy storages, going for the aircraft plant, and they do get some damage done. Nothing major, but I feel like for Race, this is perhaps becoming a death by 1,000 paper cuts. EXE slowly closing the walls in on his opponent. Each aerial raid is getting something accomplished. And EXE, this core army is just feeling superior in terms of sheer firepower to what Race can produce. It is a difficult game to be on the receiving end of because, again, it doesn't seem like Race is going to lose anytime soon. But perhaps he will slowly be crushed under the might of Core's armor doctrine. I do like the use of Mortys here. Very good against stationary defenses like the Bulwark. And does Race have anything to deal with this? Again, I mean, I just feel like EXE has had the better compositions. And EXE hasn't even gone into vehicle at all, which I didn't think either player would this game, but I think we've seen the problem with vehicles this game. I mean, it doesn't feel like it's done a ton for Race. The Bulldogs have been maybe an annoyance, but vehicles are just not well suited to this kind of map. It can work, but EXE has just been ready for it over and over. Race now attacking on multiple fronts himself, but again, Fidos are not the best counter to EXE's current composition. A well-placed toaster will cause a lot of problems. Only a single kill here, but Race will turn those Bulldogs around, realizing that EXE is ready for this push. Race making the comment that EXE played Fortress and perhaps ready to give up, realizing that EXE is slowly winning this game. Slowly overwhelming his opponent, and with that, Race will tap out. So guys, that game could have kept going on for another 30 minutes, but I think Race realized that he was slowly being crushed by EXE's superior economy and macro style. And again, I feel like EXE was using Race's own strategy against him. So, guys, what an amazing game. Very back and forth, and even up to the end, either player could have taken it. But there was a couple things that EXE was doing a little better. He got a lot more done with his rating. I don't think he fell into the trap of building vehicles, because I don't think vehicles are good on this map. But also, he went into T2 air. Those bombing runs may not have gotten a massive amount accomplished, but each bombing run did do some damage, and the psychological effect of knowing your opponent has air and it will continue raiding you is very difficult to deal with, because as you know, more raids would have been coming. Each raid would have gotten some damage done, and then Race would have just kept falling further and further behind. And I think he realized that, which is why he tapped out. But guys, thank you very much for watching this cast. My next cast will probably be a bigger game, like a 4v4. So, yeah. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.